Hello, fabulous family. Sally the Seeker here. Hope everyone's doing well. This is New Year's Eve. How time flies, right? But so we are going to look at Darrell for a moment. I know it sickens one and makes people want to throw up in their mouth, but he is. So now we're getting ready for him to do the cross-examination of Detective Carpenter. And I think even though he might act all cool and everything, I think it had to have no, I don't think he feels any shame or embarrassment, but the fact that, he's been caught in all of these lies, but I don't think he's fazed, but you'll see what I'm talking about. We're just gonna watch him. They're getting ready to come out, the judge and all that. I think it's all quiet right now, but let's just let's watch his body language. Now look at that. I think I've seen him do that before. Does he have to go to the bathroom? Is he gassy from his delicious jail lunch? Or is he... What the hell is that anyhow? I need some Dr. G. I don't know if I got the name of his channel right. Dr. G explains, or he could say, I would say, what the hell is he doing? He looks ridiculous though. But he has no shame, so I don't think he's ashamed of the prior testimony. But I know he's going to act all lawyerly and cool. And okay, so he stopped that back and forth business. Okay. So what's happening here now is the jury is not, excuse me, the jury is not currently in the courtroom right now. So they're going to discuss some things while they're out. And one of them is about the jury view, which I've already... Oh, no. Okay, yeah, y'all are going to watch this with me. Ugh. Oh, my gosh. Oh. Yeah, you can turn your head if you want. I probably should have put disturbing...
The record in State versus
contact up. Okay, I'm pausing for a moment. I'm going to skip and move on because some of this stuff we've already heard, but I just want you to hear some of his nonsense before he begins his testimony, his cross-examination. Okay, just look at his foolish expression. As you can see, I'm just in a mood. Not in a bad mood. It's just like, come on, we're just over him. Now, I believe I might have played this next little part along with the rest of the video that I'm not showing you because it's all about the jury view, but it comes up about his name and her asking him, well, what would you like me to call you? I think that we could all, between all of us, make a wonderful list of things that he could be called other than Darrell or Darrell Brooks, but I suppose you two might frown upon some of them. But I just want us to look at that, take this piece of it and look at that part, because it's just like, I think also the reason why is after we have now seen how many times he's identified himself, not just during this deal with Detective Carpenter in the interrogation room and out there when they have his not his license, but I guess it's an identification card, and he told his name then, but suddenly now he doesn't identify. I'm just thinking more and more, even though I know I've watched this a gajillion times, and I still actually, there's something I pick up, but just how the jury has to be feeling after all these days, thinking, oh my gosh. Of course, this is the person. We've only seen him, 10 different times, heard his voice or seen him, and then worrying about a honking horn, thinking that, is gonna, change everything. But anyhow, let's just indulge in a little Darrell.
And also, for the record, I don't consent to the name that's being referred to.
I'll use this opportunity, sir, to ask what name you prefer to be called, because we now have evidence in the record where you provided your name.
Yeah, that's right. You.
Upon questioning, there was video from when you were taken into custody, and then, of course, Detective Carpenter has testified about that as well. Again, I try to refer to the parties by name because that is how I believe I demonstrate respect and decorum in this courtroom. And we've been given no other name, sir, by which to call you by. And I must.
We have some ideas.
Go back to what's on the criminal complaint, which is the initial charging document. That is what was filed in order to initiate the case.
With all due respect, the record should be corrected. I didn't put anything on the record that was...
I didn't state that. I said there's evidence in the record.
Well, evidence was... You referred that evidence to me.
So there's evidence in the record, but be that as it may, I'm just letting you know I'm going to keep referring to you sometimes as defendant, sometimes as sir, sometimes as Darrell Brooks, sometimes as Mr. Brooks. I understand you may still have an objection, but I've been given no other name from you by which to call you.
I follow, but there's still a lack of understanding. Are you referring to the name? That was in all caps on all the filings.
For the love.
Of course, not going to answer that, sir. I find the response to be kind of disingenuous, sir.
Yeah, she's saying it a lot nicer than I would.
This is, I believe, a tactic by you to create some type of confusion, which I don't believe there is any, about who you are and what name I need to refer to you as.
I never said you had to refer to me by any specific name. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that every filing... You're
just delaying.
...that has ever been filed was in capital letters. That's a fact. I have paperwork to prove that. I don't recognize that name, nor do I know
his heart.
Any individual by that name. That's all I'm stating.
Well, let's assume for a second that it's not in all caps. Do you recognize that?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, we have our answer then. We're going to keep going, sir.
Yeah. Exactly. He is such an ass. Just foolishness. Just like, I mean, you can't make this stuff up yourself. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so at this point, now they've gotten over the name thing. They were discussing more about the jury view, which is something I've already shared, and wondering why he should go. And well, how can they do this if he hasn't given his consent? They went all over that, and not thinking that it was relevant, for them to go view the weapon that was used. I mean, I can appreciate him, trying to delay and all that, but it just doesn't cut it. So now she's just trying to shut him up, basically, and get Detective Carpenter. I keep calling him Dr. Casey, I believe, but I try to keep not doctor. See, I keep trying to make him a doctor. Detective Carpenter. So she's really trying to move this along. So I've skipped through most of it. Let's see if I'm at the right place.
Saying anything, and for the record, I didn't bring up the word violated.
Let us continue then. We're going to move on, Mr. Brooks. Let us continue with the questioning.
So we gonna move on to subject matter jurisdiction that has yet to be proven?
Detective Carpenter, you can please come on back up to the witness stand, and Madam Clerk, you can have the jurors brought out.
So we're not going to address that at all? That's not going to be proven for the record?
She's already done it. And I love that she's not responding to a
message. Is that
message.
judicial determination that you don't have to answer the question, Your Honor?
You look so pathetic.
Is that also a tactic agreement?
Given a statement would exist.
Exhibit 82 with evidence at this time.
All right, you want to do that in front of the jury or just with me?
I wasn't sure if the defendant would have any objections that would need to be heard off the record, or outside the presence of the jury.
Well, can you have them hold for a second? Do you have any objection to Exhibit 82?
Yeah, I got objection.
What's the objection, sir?
What is the relevancy of Exhibit 82?
82 is your interview with Detective Carpenter and Detective Stern. Your objection is to relevance? Your objection's noted, it's overruled, and I will receive Exhibit 82.
Of course it is.
We'll let the jury know that when they come
So
in.
are
Yes.
you overruling the fact that the true nature and cause has not been presented to me? That I don't know what the true nature and cause of the charges are?
I get an attorney. Good. Don't answer him. I love when she doesn't answer him. You're doing good. Hold strong, Judge. Hold strong.
You can have them brought out now.
I love it.
All right, thank you.
That's what she should have done the whole time. Not all this talking back. I get it. All of us who've had kids or taught,
All right.
we know it doesn't work.
Your Honor, may I see a sworn affidavit of the nature and authority of the court? Or is that a judicial determination? You won't answer that as well.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
The record reflects that.
All right, thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Record will reflect that Detective Carpenter is back on the witness stand following the break for the lunch hour. And Mr. Brooks, you may start your cross-examination.
I don't consent to being called that name, Your Honor.
Your objection's noted. It's overruled. Please ask your
Can't be
questions.
overruled.
They're still going to call you Darrell Brooks or Darrell.
Detective Carpenter.
No. He thinks he's like going to really get Detective Carpenter, which is so ludicrous, as we all know. It's Dr. Carpenter. Detective Carpenter has
Did
already
you attend the parade that evening, November 21st of 2021?
Yes,
In what capacity?
as a member of the Honor Guard.
And what time did you arrive?
I don't recall the exact time.
What time did you leave?
I don't recall the exact time.
And when you left, where did you go?
Our temporary police department.
Temporary. Explain what do you mean by temporary?
So at the time of the incident, the building we are in currently, which was our main building, was under construction. So we were displaced.
What do you mean by at the time of the incident?
At the time of the parade,
And so the regular station was, what did you say, under some type of construction or something?
correct.
And so what were you guys using for the temporary police station?
The city annex and city hall. We're in two different buildings.
Does any of those buildings consist of a room for interrogation?
There is at the annex.
And so when you initially interrogated the suspect, why was the annexed interrogation room not used?
Well, when I interrogated you, Mr. Brooks, the annex room was not used because the situation was very fluid. There was a lot of information being learned. We knew this was going to be drawn out. There is no municipal lockup facility at the annex, so it could not be utilized.
And so the police holding room in the hospital was more sufficient?
You asked to go up there for medical clearance.
Yeah, there you go. See? Brooks thinks he is so freaking slick with his questions. But they went there because of his alleged injury, which we all know was not. I also am loving how Detective Carpenter is so cool. Like, I think he purposely takes a swig of water at the time Brooks asks him a question so he can make him wait, just like Brooks makes everybody else wait. And I also like that, excuse me, that when Brooks asks him a question, he'll go, yes, no. And then Brooks has to work to get the questions out. But that's how you're really supposed to do. Basically, you're not supposed to give long, elaborate answers. So I'm just letting y'all know I'm loving that. So we will proceed.
So the police holding room in the hospital was more sufficient than your temporary station, which would have been more suitable.
He just said, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You just said they had to take you to the hospital because of all of your whining. What don't you understand about that?
It was more sufficient.
And why would a hospital police room be more sufficient than the actual police station that you were utilizing at the time?
Explain it to him, please.
As I stated in my previous testimony, there was no secure lockup facility at the station. In addition to that, you requested medical clearance at the hospital.
What she said again.
So was there sufficient lockup at the police room in the hospital?
Wow.
We had areas in the hospital, so when you were being treated by the doctor, you could be handcuffed to a bed. There is no place in the interrogation rooms you referred to at the annex to handcuff you to anything, and the doors did not lock sufficiently.
And to the best of your knowledge, would a detainee have that information that you just stated?
No.
So how come the suspect couldn't be handcuffed at the annex for the interrogation without having to be handcuffed to a specific bench or whatever you refer to it as?
Well,
I guess essentially what I'm asking is, could the suspect still be properly detained while being interrogated at the annex versus police holding room in the hospital?
so let me make sure I have this straight. The question is about detainment. Do I have that right?
I think the question was very clear, Detective.
You know what kills me about him? And I know I've said this a million times, but none of his questions are very clear. But anytime anyone questions him, he'll always go, I think it was very clear. But it's not. It's about as clear as mud. And that's just hilarious and annoying.
I can't answer it if I'm not going to get clarification.
He doesn't realize that he's questioning the master interrogator, and he thinks he's going to do so much better than Detective Carpenter.
Where was the suspect taken upon being detained?
You were taken, Mr. Brooks, upon the time you were arrested, down to the substation on Les Paul Parkway in Waukesha.
And do you recall if the suspect was put into a holding room?
Yes.
And do you recall if that holding room had something that would secure a detainee?
Yes.
So why couldn't the interrogation happen there if the suspect could be secured at that location?
Well, there are various reasons, and one of the most important reasons is when we took you to the hospital, Mr. Brooks, for your medical clearance, there were now a total of 4 officers there, myself, Detective Stern, and eventually the 2 federal agents. The situation was still very fluid. When I began the initial the initial questioning, it was 11:04 p.m. and there were still a lot of unknowns. So the determination was made to start questioning you, see what information you might be willing to provide us. Because with 4 of us, we were confident we would be able to keep you where you belonged. The information that we weren't going to take the risk of an extra potentially unnecessary transport back to that facility. You couldn't be held there. You couldn't be held at the sub. There's no beds.
You referred to interrogation starting at a specific place. I'm referring to the substation. Is it fair to say that there was no interrogation that took place at the substation?
Yes. There was no interrogation at the substation in Waukesha.
Do you recall what information was obtained at the substation?
Yes.
Do you recall what that was?
Yes.
Can you state for the jury and for the record what information you obtained at the substation?
Yes, sir. Basic biographical information. So I obtained your first name, Darrell Brooks, your last name being Brooks, your full middle name, I should say, being Edward. I learned that you were a junior. The date of birth, February 21st, 1982. Additional information obtained was your home address, which was you provided as 4014 North 19th Street in the city of Milwaukee. Phone number, your emergency contact, which you provided as Dawn Woods. Whether you were employed, going to school. I remember talking with you about your tattoos and other physical marks that might be on your body. Your hair color, eye color, photographs were taken. Things of that nature.
Kept mentioning that name, pretty slick.
You know, Mr. Brooks, there's nothing slick about it. Judge Darrow already explained to you that is the name that you gave. It's on the records, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. There's nothing slick about it. No. You can object all you want, but they're still going to allow you to be called your damn name. So let go of it.
Sure, disregard that last statement, sir. Please ask questions. You'll have an opportunity to testify later.
Oh, I got a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, you better get ready, Detective Carpenter. I'm sure he does. And they're going to be stupid as hell.
And at that point in the investigation, what did you initially know?
At that point, we knew that the red Ford Escape had driven through the parade route and that you'd been identified as a suspect.
And why was that information not provided at that time to the detainee?
The information at the time wasn't presented to you, Mr. Brooks, because, as I stated in my earlier testimony, it was still very fluid. It was very chaotic out at the scene. There was still a lot more that needed to be learned.
So is that standard procedure to not tell a person why they're being detained?
Well, we did not tell you. That's incorrect, and it's misleading to the court. You were informed you were being detained for prowling, littering, disorderly conduct of that nature.
Is that the same as...
Can I finish, please? I just didn't bring up the parade part of it.
Why not?
As I stated in earlier testimony, it was very fluid and chaotic, and a lot of information wasn't yet known, so I was waiting to receive more information.
Did you state in your early testimony if that was standard procedure or not?
He looks like such a fool.
It's standard.
So with every detainee that you've ever detained during your career, 18 years, right?
Yes.
It's standard procedure to not tell someone being detained what they're detained for.
As I had stated in my earlier testimony, Mr. Brooks, I explained to you were detained for prowling and loitering and disorderly conduct. Based on the lack of information on the parade, that was not brought up. So what I can clarify for the court at this point is that in situations where so limited information exists early on, it is standard not to convey that information to suspects.
And what do you mean by it's standard?
I mean that I don't tell them because I don't have all the facts yet, and I'm not looking to necessarily accuse them before I know the nature of what they did or didn't do exactly pertaining to that incident.
So it'd be fair to say that it was not a fact as far as the information you learned to that point in the investigation.
Objection made.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
So at that point in the investigation, it wasn't a fact.
Objection, same question.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
At that point in the investigation, the information you had at that time, you weren't sure about.
I guess which part?
All the information that you had up until that point.
Okay, about the prowling or parade, I don't understand which part of it you're talking about.
Yeah, really.
All the information that you've obtained at that point in the investigation, you weren't sure about. As you just said, you don't try to assume guilt or anything like that until you have all the facts. So at that time, at that point in the investigation, is it fair to say that the information that you had obtained so far, you were not sure about?
I wasn't sure if you were the driver initially, but it was believed you were involved.
And you knew that to be fact?
Yes, the information being provided was that you were involved.
So it'd be fair to say you knew that as a fact?
Well, hold on, I'm gonna not allow him to answer that. This jury will determine the facts of this case. If you want to ask him his opinion, you do that at your discretion.
He said fact. He said facts.
You asked the question, sir, so
But he brought it up first.
I'm going to
Boy.
strike the question from the record, and Mr. Brooks, you're directed to rephrase.
I will rephrase, but I do not consent to being called that name for the record.
Noted and overruled.
Overruled. We will still call you Darrell, and many other names.
You stated that there were some loitering and prowling allegations. Why? To your knowledge, were those ever charged?
Objection relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No.
And do you recall why not?
No.
So why did you constantly tell the detainee that they were being detained for loitering and prowling if you in fact knew that there was another reason why they were being detained?
Objection asked and
Grounds.
answered.
Sustained. That's the form of the question and assumes facts not in evidence.
What was the significance of the FBI being present?
The significance of the FBI presence was the early on concern that this was a terrorist-style event.
And you said that this was a terrorist element. And what is the this? Can you explain what the this is?
The this.
When
What do
you
you say?
drove your vehicle through the parade and struck people.
Which at the time you stated you did not know is fact, correct?
That was still being investigated, yes, but I know that's what occurred now.
Now versus then.
Initially, it was unknown if you drove.
That's what I was
stated.
That was the question.
But the investigation showed that you were the driver of the vehicle.
And initially you didn't provide that information, correct?
Correct.
So do you know if the FBI continued their part of the investigation?
Eventually, the investigation was strictly run by our department.
And do you recall why that decision was made?
My understanding is there wasn't a terrorism link.
But there was definitely an attack. Even though Brooks hates to hear it called an attack, but that's exactly what it is, and everybody knows. I just love, don't y'all love how cool and brilliant he thinks he is asking these questions to Detective Carpenter? He's just not getting anywhere, and he acts. Oh my God, did I just say acts? No, I did not. He asks stupid questions, and it just takes up so much time. But, it's kind of fun just watching Detective Carpenter play while looking absolutely and thoroughly disgusted by Darrell the whole time, as he should be. He's probably thinking, why is he wasting, as we all think, why did he waste? Why didn't he just plead guilty? Why? Yes, he has a right to the fair trial, but then he pleads not guilty and then just wastes everyone's time, torments people. I guess that's just why he is just, to me, there's a lot of evil people out there, but he is evil, narcissistic, and at least some of them are quiet. That doesn't excuse anything they do, but to have to hear him and him mentally just exhaust people. He exhausts me. I mean, I get it. Got to give him props for that. And I don't know. I could never stand up as long as he has been standing up, but that's neither here nor there. I'm actually going to stop this now. I feel like maybe some of them, I don't know. The others, they are a bit long, some of them. So I'm going to break this up a little bit more and play less. And plus, it's hopefully it'll take a little less time to upload, I would believe, so I can get it to you all in a timely fashion. But I don't know if you can hear it, but they're beginning to fireworks here now. It is now dark. New Year's Eve. Do you all have any resolutions? I personally don't believe in any. I do look at the new year as a fresh start. I guess you could look at it that way, as a fresh start. But then every day, as far as I'm concerned, is a fresh start from the day before. But if y'all are out partying, please be safe. Call someone to drive you. Call an Uber if you need to. Be safe. And I love you all. Thank you so much for commenting, subscribing, liking. I have been reading your comments. I just haven't put the hearts by them, but I'm going to try to get back and do that so you know that I have read them. But I really do appreciate everything. And I'm super close to 2,000, to the big 2K. Hey, it's okay. It's work in action, right? All right, guys. Love you so much. Don't forget, be kind to one another. Be kind to you. And I will see you the next time.